So we got the Inflatable Twins here and they are setting up the tarp. We are getting out our deep sea 25-foot slide for them. Now you guys know these are professionals, so they know what they're doing. All right, so the guys are gonna open up the bag now to see how it's rolled so they can figure out how they want to unroll it.
All right, when we opened it out of the box, we noticed that you can tell the false liner down here. Jo always has that underneath the pool. Helps on the weight, but it also helps you index the slide to know which way it's been rolled. So this one has been rolled from the back to the front. That's why you have this pool liner down here. JC is gonna go ahead and undo the buckles and we're gonna lay the slide down and roll it out.
And then before we start opening up, we gotta make sure everything is closed. All these little flaps, most of them are since it's brand new, but all these drains help to get the water out whenever it's waterlogged. But just when we're gonna blow it up, everything's gotta be closed.
Some more vents down here. Jo always has a lot of vents for easy deflation. We're gonna start getting these tethers prepared for it to be risen. They always give it a nice little tie down here. Just pull it out, tighten the knot, and stretch it on out. That way when you're blowing it up, you can have a nice controlled blow up. No slides tipping over on you, anything like that. There's normally 6, 3 on each side.
Right here's where we have the connection to the bladder. This is where you're gonna wanna hook up your pool or your hose. And it's got all these little straps here to kind of connect them, keep it controlled, keep it together. So it's not just flapping everywhere, kids can get a hold of it. This keeps it nice and tight to the unit. Just Velcro them together. When you gotta replace the hose, no cutting zip ties, no nothing. And it's a super easy connection, goes all the way through the top of the slide.
Right. Usually Jump Orange always has this drain always open. People like to miss it a lot. Always make sure you're doing everything all closed. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 zippers. 1, 2, 3 vents on the bottom of the slide. Some slides even have another vent on the bottom where the pool meets the slide. They all look like this, very simple. Open it right up, small little drainage hole for air and for water. Nice good Velcro, make sure it's nice and stuck.
All right, so we just put gas in the generator, so we're good to go. Now you gotta make sure you put start first. And you come over to the choke. Turn the choke on when you start it, when it's cold. After you've been running it, you can just start it from here. So we're gonna start it now. And then the fuel needs to be turned on. Once you got all that, then you can yank and pull. Then move the choke back. Plug in your cord. You're good to go on the other side. You should be using a 12 gauge or a 10 gauge extension cord. We usually recommend 50 feet or just straight 100 feet. Sometimes the 100 feet come in really handy, but 50 feet is the normal. And it'll have numbers on the side here. 12AWG, that's 12 gauge. Don't use 14, 16 or anything. The higher the number, the thinner the cord. So you want it to be a low number.
When you're securing your extension cord and your blower together, you always want to give a little bit of a safety measure. What I do is I give a little bit of a length and I always double it up like this, pull them through. That way it's not a trip hazard. No matter how much they pull on either one of these, this is never going to come loose. But you also want to make sure it's far enough away that this plug is easy. You don't want it to be bending and stretching, because that's what's going to cause an electrical arc and your cords are going to blacken out. So just make sure there's a little bit of slack here, but you also want the safety measure of this here. Connecting the blower tube, you always want to make sure that this is as extended as you can, because this is going to keep moving back as the unit blows up. So you go ahead, you put it down, get it nice and snug over the mouth, move the blower in close. Always go ahead, this is a quick release, just give it a good tug, make sure everything is tucked in. We're going to go ahead, blow her on up. So what we're going to do now is let the unit blow up a little bit, and then we're going to pull these straps back as our guides, kind of like our reins on a horse. We're guiding it in this manner, making sure that this line right here is laying flat on the ground as well as the blower tube being fully extended to give as much airflow to the front as possible. JC is walking around the unit, making sure everything is closed, making sure everything is blowing up properly. All the hoses are off, all the tethers are off of the slide, so we're not climbing on top, trying to get anything down off of a 25-foot water slide. Make sure that everything's on the ground where we can reach it and access it. As I see the slide leaning to one side, I let go of that, and I'd use this tether, pull it on over to the side here, making sure that the back of the slide is nice and level. I'm on the other side of the slide. I have now transitioned over to one of the front facing tethers. That way I can prevent it from falling backwards. Nice and controlled. Like I said, you're in control with these tethers. Just like it supports the slide when it's up, it also helps you put it up. All right, that's not going anywhere. We're gonna secure the sandbag to the back. That is the most pivotal point.
The last thing is the tethers. You want to make sure that each one has its own stake and you're not all bunching them up in one. Even with sandbags, they got to go on their own and they're supposed to be pointed in different directions. So what I'll do is I'll just do a quick tie and make it tight, but not too tight. It's got to have some flex to be able to bounce around, but the whole point is it won't tip over if kids are jumping around side to side over there. This holds it down. You got one this way, one that way, and one going toward the back. Keeps it at the top as steady as possible. When you can't use stakes, you got to use sandbags to hold everything down. We're only using a couple here just because we're blowing it up and we're taking it back down. But you got to check with the manufacturer to make sure you got the correct weight of sandbags on there. It's heavy, it can fly off. That's why you got to make sure you use the correct weight. One bag in each corner is not enough weight. We're gonna take this, and this is the way I do it. It just makes it easy. Take this end, put it on this end, and then I come back straight through, and then back in. So this does two things. That thing is ready to pull there, as tight as possible, and no matter what, it's not going anywhere.
When you're blowing up, JO has a lot of unique designs, a lot of stuff dangling everywhere. You want to make sure that everything is in a proper position. One, to not damage your unit, and two, to not injure anybody. You can see that this tentacle right here is kind of sticking into the pool. You just got to be an operator and know your unit. Say, hey, that looks a little weird. Go ahead, pull it out, twist it back around. Everything is going to make sense. It's not going to be in a wet place where somebody can pull or hurt on it, because the last thing you want is the customer to go by and get hung up on any of this kind of stuff. Just pay particular attention to all of your designs. You want to not get sued. You want to make sure that everybody's having a good time, as well as your units are going to come back in the way that you left them there. Right here, it's attached down here. It also it's tied with two pieces of Velcro and two eyelets all the way around on all of these pieces, so that they aren't out of place. And if they are, make sure that they're secured, because that's specifically how the manufacturer intended them to be in those positions.
The last step, checking out a new unit, you gotta get up there. You gotta inspect it from the inside and the outside.